Don't touch that, you can't afford it. The sound cracked through the boutique like glass shattering. Heads whipped toward the velvet-roped VIP section just in time to see the store manager in a red satin dress drop her hand from the cheek she'd just struck. Gasps rippled through the room. Somewhere near the champagne bar, a flute rattled in a server's hand. The soft jazz floating from hidden speakers suddenly felt wrong, too calm for the violence that had just ripped the air apart. The woman in the orange dress didn't raise a hand to her cheek. She didn't step back. She simply stood there, her gaze locked on the blonde in red who had just hit her. The manager looked like she'd stepped straight out of a luxury campaign, gold hair and loose curls, heels clicking against marble, lips painted the same fierce shade as her dress. But her beauty carried a blade. She leaned in, voice low and cutting. This section is for platinum clients only. You don't belong here. End. The flagship of Valiant Luxe gleamed around them. Marble floors polished to a mirror shine, glass cases lit like altars, mannequins draped in gowns worth more than a year's rent. The air was laced with leather and perfume. And in the center of it all, the woman in orange, no designer logos, no entourage, stood as still as the mannequins, but with eyes that could burn through glass. From the fitting rooms, a young woman in ripped jeans froze mid-step. Did she just slap her? She whispered to her friend, already hitting record. A man at the shoe wall murmured, "This is about to go viral," without looking away. The manager straightened, scanning the boutique as if daring anyone to challenge her. "Security!" she barked, her voice echoing off the marble. "Remove her! Now!" Still, the woman in orange didn't move. She'd been here before at 22, told to stick to the clearance rack, and at 28, followed like a thief through a store. Different faces, same tone. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, even, and impossible to ignore. "I'm not done here." The manager's laugh was short, sharp. "Oh, you're done. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here." Now back to her. Her hand slid into her pocket. A sleek black phone appeared, pressed to her ear. "Activate Protocol 8, she said softly. A ripple moved through the watching crowd. The manager's smirk didn't fade. She had no idea she'd just triggered a chain of events that would pull $5 billion out from under her company and shut it down, starting with this store. The manager's smirk widened. "Protocol what? This isn't a movie, sweetheart." But in the far corner, a young sales associate in a black blazer froze. Her name tag read Lena, a trainee barely 2 months into the job. She'd scanned the woman's platinum tier account herself that morning. She knew it was real. She stepped forward, hesitant but shaking off the fear. "Ma'am," she said toward the manager, "she's—" "Stay out of this, Lena," the manager snapped without looking at her. "You're here to shadow, not to speak." Lena's lips pressed together. She stayed where she was, but her eyes didn't leave the woman in orange. A few shoppers began to edge closer, careful to keep their cameras low. In the back, a man in a navy suit whispered to the woman beside him, "That's not just some random customer." The woman in orange adjusted her stance, one heel pivoting slightly on the marble. "I'd like you to call your district office," she told the manager, her voice still calm. The manager laughed, a brittle sound. "Why? So you can tell them some fantasy about how you belong here?" She gestured at the dress in the woman's hand, a silk evening gown worth $9,800, as if it were Exhibit A in her case against her. "Security's on their way," she added. "And when they get here, you'll be—" A voice cut her off. It was Lena's, louder now, steady. "Her account is valid. I saw it in the system." The room shifted. Several heads turned toward Lena. The young associate's hands trembled slightly, but she didn't look away from the manager. "You don't get to erase her," Lena said. The manager turned, eyes blazing. "One more word, and you're finished here." "That's fine," Lena replied, her voice breaking but unyielding. "I'd rather lose a job than stay quiet while you treat someone like this." A ripple of murmurs spread through the boutique. One woman in a navy wrap dress stepped closer, phone recording. "Say that again," she urged Lena. "I said she belongs here," Lena repeated, louder this time. "And you know it." The manager's smile faltered for the first time. Her eyes darted toward the crowd, the raised phones, the whispering customers, and back to the woman in orange. The CEO's phone was still pressed to her ear. "Yes," she said into it. "Escalate to corporate legal, and put Lena's name on the protected list." "Yes, ma'am," came the crisp reply from the other end. The manager stiffened. "Protected list?" she scoffed. "What is this, some kind of intimidation tactic?" The woman in orange finally smiled, a small, razor-sharp curve of her lips. "Number, it's a record of who stood up when it mattered." Lena's eyes widened, realizing something larger was unfolding. Around them, the tension in the air was no longer just between two women, it was between truth and the walls trying to hold it back. And the walls were starting to crack. The glass doors at the front swung open. Two security guards stepped in black suits, earpieces, the kind that didn't smile. "Right here," the manager in the red satin dress called, pointing like she'd just found a shoplifter. "Escort her out." One of the guards nodded and approached, but something in his stride slowed when he saw the woman in orange. She stood tall, phone still in hand, eyes locked on him. "Names?" she asked calmly. The guard blinked. "Ma'am?" "Your names," she repeated, tone even but leaving no room for refusal. "For the legal report." The second guard glanced at the manager, then back at the woman. "We weren't told this was going legal," he muttered. "It will be," she replied. The manager stepped forward, trying to wedge herself back into the center of control. "You're wasting everyone's time," she snapped. "She's trespassing in a VIP zone." The woman in orange finally lowered her phone. "Trespassing?" She tilted her head, almost curious. "On a floor I own?" A few shoppers gasped audibly. The manager's jaw tightened. "What are you talking about?" "You'll want to check the corporate registry," the CEO said, her voice like steel wrapped in silk. "It lists every shareholder of Valiant Lux in order of ownership. I'm number 1. The guards hesitated, looking between the two women. One of them stepped back, folding his arms. From the far corner, Lena spoke again. "She's telling the truth. Her profile's in the system. Highest tier access." Phones tilted upward as more people started recording. A man in a charcoal blazer whispered to someone beside him, "If that's real, this woman could shut the place down." "Oh, she could," the CEO said as if responding to him. "And I will." The manager's face flushed crimson beneath her makeup. "You're bluffing." The CEO's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Try me." She lifted her phone again, pressing a single button. "Confirm order. Withdraw all capital from Valiant Lux operations. Effective immediately." The line crackled, then a voice on speaker replied, "Confirmed. $5 billion in holdings flagged for removal. Execution in process." The crowd murmured like a storm building. The guard stepped back fully now, no longer touching the situation. Lena's eyes went wide, the reality of the moment settling in. The manager, still standing in her heels and satin, looked around at the phones pointed at her, at the whispers curling through the boutique like smoke. "Wait," she said, but her voice had lost its edge. "You can't just—" "Oh, I can," the CEO interrupted. "And I just did." Silence fell, heavy and absolute. Even the music overhead seemed to fade. Somewhere near the back, a mannequin toppled in the stillness. The sound, sharp against the marble. The CEO didn't look back. "Now," she said, turning toward the door. "Get out of my way." And for the first time that afternoon, the manager obeyed. The marble floor clicked beneath her heels as she walked toward the glass doors. No rush, no stumble, just the deliberate pace of someone who knew every eye in the room was on her. The crowd parted without a word. Phones lifted higher now, tracking her every step like she was the only thing worth watching. Behind her, the manager in the red satin dress stayed frozen, hands knotted together, the heat of humiliation blotching her perfect foundation. Near the counter, Lena stood straighter, almost proud. The CEO glanced over her shoulder just once, locking eyes with the young associate. "Your courage is noted," she said, her voice carrying just enough for the crowd to hear. Outside the boutique, the hum of the shopping district felt sharper. People slowed as they noticed the cameras, the woman in orange, the tension spilling out into the open air. A man with a press badge around his neck jogged forward. "Ma'am, can we get a statement?" She didn't break stride. "You'll see it on the news in an hour." The doors to the boutique swung shut behind her, but the murmurs inside didn't die. Customers spoke in quick bursts. "She said $5 billion! Shut the chain down!" The manager's face when she found out. On the sidewalk, more cameras appeared. A teenage girl in a denim jacket caught her arm lightly. "Ma'am, was that real? You're really the owner?" The CEO paused just long enough to answer. real enough to make it hurt. Then she stepped away, the girl's mouth falling open as she turned to her friends. The air outside was cooler, but the scene was hotter. Hashtags were already forming on screens: number Valent Lux Meltdown, number CEO Ein Orange, number 5 billion gone. A black SUV eased up to the curb. The driver jumped out to open the door, but the CEO lingered for a second, glancing back at the glass storefront. Through the pane, she could see the manager still standing there, trying to hold herself together under the weight of 100 eyes. The CEO lifted her chin just slightly. Then, loud enough for the cameras, "Luxury isn't what you sell. It's how you treat people when you think no one's watching." The line cut through the noise like a blade. The press swarmed forward. Microphones stretched, but she was already sliding into the back seat. The SUV door shut with a muted thud. The engine purred. As the car pulled away, the boutique, that gleaming temple of exclusivity, shrank in the rear window, looking less like a fortress and more like a relic about to crumble. Inside, the manager's phone buzzed with a call from corporate. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. She already knew what it meant. And somewhere, on a dozen news sites, the headline was already writing itself. By the next morning, the clip had more views than the Super Bowl halftime show. 15 seconds of a red satin slap. 20 seconds of a calm woman in orange making a call that wiped $5 billion off the books. It played on every network. Morning anchors replayed the moment in slow motion, zooming in on the manager's face when the words, "I own this floor," landed. Number CEO Ein Orange trended in 22 countries. Number 5 billion gone climbed past celebrity gossip and election coverage. Memes flooded timelines, split screens of the slap and the SUV door closing, captions reading, "How it started, how it's going." And then came the interview request from Global News Prime. She accepted. The studio lights were warm, the backdrop a skyline at dusk. The host polished, practiced, leaned forward in his seat. "First of all," he said, "thank you for joining us. You've been called the calmest CEO in a crisis the internet has ever seen. Tell us, why pull out $5 billion in funding?" "That's unprecedented." The woman in orange, same dress, same neat updo, folded her hands in her lap. "Because sometimes," she said, "money is the only language some people listen to, and when they use their power to demean others, you have to speak in a language they understand." The host nodded. "So this wasn't about the dress?" She smiled faintly. "It's never about the dress. It's about the assumption that I didn't belong in a place I built. That's not just my story, it's a story millions live every day. I had the platform to change it, so I did." Behind the scenes, a producer gestured for the crew to pull up a split screener on one side, footage of the young associate on the other. "And Lena?" the host asked. "The employee who spoke up?" "She'll have a job for as long as she wants one," the CEO said. "In my office, with a salary that matches her courage." The clip cut to Lena watching from her apartment, tears in her eyes, her phone vibrating non-stop with messages from strangers calling her a hero. The host leaned back. "Some critics say you overreacted." Her gaze didn't waver. "If standing up for dignity is an overreaction, then I hope more people overreact." The studio fell silent for a beat. Even the host seemed to sense it, the weight of the sentence, the way it hung in the air. Outside, in the network's lobby, a crowd had gathered. Phones pressed to glass, strangers mouthing thank you as she walked past. By the time she stepped into the waiting SUV, the clip from the interview was already going viral. Not the slap, not the $5 billion, just one line. "It's never about the dress." 2 days later, the ripple had become a wave. Shares of Valent Lux were in freefall, down 37% since the incident. Analysts called it the 5 billion slap. Late-night hosts turned it into monologues. Competitors released ads with slogans like, "Where everyone belongs." Behind closed doors, the board of directors convened an emergency call. A leaked audio clip hit the internet within hours. "If we don't get her back, we may not survive Q4. But the CEO wasn't picking up their calls. Meanwhile, in a small rented studio apartment across the city, the manager in the red satin dress, now just Erica Dane in jeans and a hoodie, stared at her phone. Comments under her name were venom. The face of corporate racism. Red dress, red flags. Career over. She slammed the phone down. "No," she told herself in the mirror. "I'm not going down like this." That afternoon, Erica walked into a news station without an appointment. She pitched herself as the misunderstood scapegoat. The producer hesitated until she offered to do it live. By 8 p.m., she was sitting under studio lights, hair and makeup rushed but intact. The interviewer wasted no time. "You're the store manager seen slapping the CEO in the viral video. Why did you do it?" Erica's hands tightened in her lap. "I didn't know who she was. I thought she was mishandling merchandise. We have strict rules for the VIP section. I made a mistake, but it wasn't about race." The interviewer tilted her head. "Then why say, you can't afford it?" A flicker of panic crossed Erica's face. That was taken out of context. The cameras don't show everything. Clips of the exchange hit Twitter within minutes. Responses split instantly. Some defended her, others shredded her story. The hashtags number "Nice Try Erica" and number "Context Is" everything trended side by side. Across town, in her penthouse office, the CEO watched the interview on mute. Her assistant leaned in. "Do you want me to respond?" She shook her head. "Not yet. Let her play her hand first." The next morning, a message hit the CEO's inbox from an unexpected sender. "Erica Dane." It was short. "We need to talk. I have information that could hurt both of us." The CEO read it twice, her expression unreadable. Then she closed the laptop, stood, and looked out over the city skyline. The game wasn't over. It had just changed. The cafe was discreet, dark wood booths, frosted glass panels, the kind of place where powerful conversations happened quietly. Erica arrived first, trading her hoodie for a navy sheath dress and low heels. She sat with her back to the wall, scanning every face that walked in. Her phone buzzed every few seconds with new notifications. Most of them she didn't dare open. At exactly 2 p.m., the woman in orange walked in. Same calm stride, same pulled-back hair, but this time, there was no softness in her eyes. Erica stood halfway, unsure whether to offer a hand. The CEO didn't take it. She slid into the opposite seat. "You have 5 minutes," the CEO said. Erica's smile was tight. "I know what the internet thinks of me right now, but if you let this go unchecked, there's more to lose than my job." "Such as?" Erica leaned forward. "There are internal memos about the VIP policy. They show corporate encouraged us to profile certain customers, not just you. If these leak, Valiant Lux takes a hit, but so do you. You're the face of the brand." The CEO's gaze didn't flicker. "You think I'm afraid of truth? I think you're smart enough to know the board will use this to push you out. They can't touch your shares, but they can ice you out of operations. And then," Erica's voice dropped, "they rebuild without you." The words hung between them. For a moment, the CEO simply stirred her coffee, the silver spoon tapping against porcelain. "So what's your ask?" "A joint statement. You say we've resolved our differences, that the company will review its policies. I keep my reputation intact. You keep the brand from bleeding out more than it already has." "Ugh. And in return, I delete the memos, no leaks." The CEO set down the spoon. "You came here thinking you had leverage, but what you have are copies of documents my legal team already pulled months ago, documents I've been holding until the right moment." Erica's mouth opened, then shut. I wanted to see if you'd take responsibility when cornered," the CEO said. "You didn't. You looked for an escape route." The color drained from Erica's face. The CEO stood, sliding a black business card across the table. "That's my attorney's number. If you want to cooperate, call by noon tomorrow. After that, we go to court, and the memos go public on my terms, not yours." Erica stared at the card, fingers twitching. "I always finish what I start," the CEO said, turning to leave. As the door shut behind her, Erica realized the cameras in the corner had been on the whole time. The meeting hadn't been private at all. It hit the internet just after sunrise. A grainy, angled shot from the corner of a cafe. Erica Dane in a navy dress. The woman in orange across from her, calm as ever. The clip was only 90 seconds, but it didn't need more. It caught Erica leaning forward, saying, "Corporate encouraged us to profile certain customers, not just you." It caught the CEO sliding the black business card across the table. "If you want to cooperate, call by noon tomorrow. After that, we go to court and the memos go public on my terms." Within an hour, the video had over 1 million views. By noon, it was headline news. Valiant Lux manager admits to customer profiling. Black CEO gives 24-hour ultimatum. Somewhere in her apartment, Erica sat frozen, the phone buzzing beside her like a trapped insect. Every channel replayed her words. The hashtags had shifted now, number profile gate, number policy change now. In her office, the CEO didn't look surprised. She was on a call with her communications director. "Push the statement live," she said. Minutes later, her official account posted, "No customer should be judged before they are served. We will be implementing a zero-tolerance policy on profiling across all our brands effective immediately. Details at 5 p.m. EST." The post detonated online. Activists, celebrities, even rival CEOs shared it with captions like "Finally" and "This is leadership." By afternoon, news vans were parked outside Valent Lux's corporate HQ. Employees inside whispered that the board was in chaos, some furious at the leak, others scrambling to align themselves with the new policy. On the 30th floor, the CEO held a press conference. She didn't mention Erica by name, but she didn't need to. "This is bigger than one store," she told the room. "It's about dismantling a culture that decides who belongs before a single word is spoken. We're done with that." Flashbulbs popped. Reporters shouted questions. One asked if she thought Erica would call before the noon deadline. The CEO's lips curved slightly. "She already did," she said, "and we're talking." But what she didn't say, what no one in the room knew, was that she had no intention of keeping Erica in the company. The conversation now was about how she would leave, not if. Outside, protest signs had started to appear. Some read "Policy change now." Others carried a simpler message: "Orange wins." By sunset, the leaked cafe video had been watched over 50 million times. And for the first time, the story wasn't just about a slap or $5 billion. It was about a shift, one that had just gone global. The Valent Lux boardroom was a glass fortress 31 stories above the city. Usually, it was a place of quiet power, crystal water pitchers, leather chairs, the hum of controlled voices. Not today. $5 billion in funding gone. Global outrage and now protests outside our flagship locations, one director barked, slamming a hand on the polished oak table. "We can't afford to let her dictate the narrative any longer." Across from him, another director shook her head. "We can't afford to be against her. She just won public opinion in 20 countries. If we fire her, we set ourselves on fire." The chairman rubbed his temples. "Our international partners are calling. Some are threatening to pull their investments unless we resolve this in 48 hours. As if on cue, the conference line lit up. The voice that came through was crisp, accented Liang Wei, the largest overseas shareholder, speaking from Shanghai. "In China, Valent Lux is synonymous with aspiration," Liang said. "But aspiration cannot exist without respect. If the CEO is removed, I will withdraw my $2.1 billion stake, effective immediately." The room froze. No one argued. Back in her own office, the CEO was already aware of Liang's stance. She'd spoken to him the night before, outlining a plan that was now ready for its final move. She called her assistant. "Send the documents to the press," she said. Within the hour, media outlets began receiving an encrypted file labeled "The Platinum Protocol." Inside were years of internal policy notes, proof that profiling wasn't just tolerated, it was written into the VIP training manual. Dates, signatures, executive approvals. Every news desk knew what they had, and every headline landed like a punch. Valent Lux profile policy exposed. CEO releases internal files. Culture must change. The board scrambled for damage control, but it was too late. The story had shifted again. Now it wasn't about her conduct. It was about their complicity. That evening, while the directors fought over statements and legal language, the CEO walked into the boardroom unannounced. "Gentlemen, ladies," she said, setting her phone on the table, "I have an offer." They stared at her in silence. "You appoint me interim chair effective immediately, with full authority to restructure policy and personnel. In exchange, I keep Valent Lux operational and retain our top investors." "And if we refuse?" one director asked. She tapped her phone. A live feed appeared on the screen. Liang Wei, in his Shanghai office, speaking to a room full of cameras. "If she goes, I go," he was saying. "And I'm not alone." The CEO looked up. "You have 10 minutes to decide." The boardroom was silent except for the ticking of the antique clock above the door. 10 chairs, 10 faces, and one decision that would decide the future of Valent Lux. The chairman cleared his throat. "Motion on the floor. Appoint the current CEO as interim chair, granting full operational authority for 12 months. Before the first vote could be cast, the door swung open. Erica Dane walked in, not in satin red this time, a sharp charcoal suit, hair pinned tight, expression composed. She held a thick leather folder in her hands. "I have the deciding factor," she announced. Murmurs broke out around the table. One director said, "Miss Dane, you're not on the board." "No," Erica said, "but I have evidence that could destroy the CEO's credibility. If you want a way to remove her without losing investors, you'll want to hear me out." The CEO didn't move from her seat at the head of the table. "Evidence?" she asked, voice steady. Erica set the folder down, opening it to reveal copies of emails, some addressed to senior executives, others with the CEO's name in the CC line. These show she was aware of the profiling policy long before she took action. That makes her complicit. The room held its breath. One or two directors leaned forward. The CEO finally stood, smoothing the sleeve of her orange blazer. "Interesting," she said, "except those emails are from before I acquired majority control and under corporate bylaws. Any directives issued before that date are the sole responsibility of the prior board." She tapped the folder. "Section 14, subsection 3 if you want to check." A legal counsel at the end of the table nodded slowly. "She's correct. These documents do not implicate her under current governance law." Erica's confidence faltered. And, the CEO continued, "since you've just attempted to interfere in a board vote without standing, I'm invoking Clause 7.2 of the Employee Conduct Charter, gross misconduct and breach of confidentiality. Effective immediately, you're barred from all Valent Lux properties and communications." It wasn't a shout. It wasn't even loud. But it landed like a gavel. The chairman sighed. "We proceed to vote." One by one, hands went up. 7 in favor, 2 opposed, 1 abstained. The CEO looked around the table. "Motion carries. I'll take it from here." Erica stood frozen as security. The same guards from the boutique stepped in. For a brief moment, their eyes met. "This isn't over," Erica hissed. "It is for you," the CEO replied, turning her back as they led her out. The antique clock ticked on. By sunrise the next day, the corner office looked different. Not physically, same marble desk, same panoramic skyline, but in energy. The walls no longer felt like they belonged to the board. They belonged to her. Stacks of documents lay open across the desk. Policy drafts, staffing reports, termination letters. The first to go were the regional managers who'd enforced the Platinum Protocol with enthusiasm. Their replacements were vetted for both business acumen and cultural awareness. She moved like a conductor through it all. A call here to the legal department, a meeting there with the diversity council she'd just created. Every move was deliberate, every signature a statement. By mid-morning, her communications director entered with a draft press release. "We've framed it as a company-wide renewal," he said, "but the media will know it's a purge." "Let them," she replied, scanning the text. "They'll see it's a necessary one." At noon, she held her first address as both CEO and interim chair. Cameras streamed live to every Valent Lux branch around the world. "This isn't about one policy," she told the thousands watching. "It's about the culture we create when no one is looking. Change is not optional. It starts here, and it starts now." Applause broke out in offices from Paris to Tokyo. Even in stores where staff had been bracing for backlash, there was a sense that the tide had shifted. But when the cameras switched off, she didn't linger. She walked straight to a smaller, private conference room where 3 people were waiting, leaders from 2 rival luxury brands and a major e-commerce platform. One of them, a silver-haired man in a bespoke suit, spoke first. "We've all been watching what you've done at Valent Lux. We think it can go further." She leaned forward. "How far?" "An industry-wide code," he said. "No profiling, no gatekeeping. Shared enforcement across every major player." The CEO's eyes narrowed, calculating. "You want to change the rules for everyone. And you," another added, "would lead it." She sat back, the faintest smile touching her lips. The idea wasn't new to her. In fact, it was step 2 of a plan she'd been drafting since before the slap. Valent Lux was just the proving ground. "I'll do it," she said. "But on one condition, we don't just write a code. We build a watchdog group that answers to no single company. Public reporting, transparent penalties. If we're going to lead, we lead without hiding." They exchanged glances. Then, one by one, they nodded. By the time the meeting ended, the foundation for the Global Luxury Ethics Alliance was set. As she stepped back into her office, her assistant handed her a tablet with the day's headlines. The top one read, "Black CEO to rewrite rules for luxury industry." She looked out at the skyline, her reflection sharp in the glass. Valiant Luxe was just the beginning. 3 months later, the grand ballroom of the Continental Hotel glittered under chandeliers the size of small cars. Every major luxury CEO, fashion editor, and investor worth mentioning was in the room. Cameras from around the world streamed live. The woman in orange stepped up to the podium. Same calm composure, same hair pulled back with precision. Behind her, the new emblem of the Global Luxury Ethics Alliance glowed on a massive screen. "Luxury," she began, "is not measured in price tags, but in principles. Today, the largest names in our industry sign a commitment that will outlive trends and seasons. Zero tolerance for profiling, full transparency, and accountability without exception." A round of applause rolled through the hall, but she held up a hand. "And we will enforce it together, not as competitors, but as custodians of a global standard." One by one, the leaders signed the charter, their pens scratching history onto parchment. Flashbulbs strobed. Outside the hotel, crowds cheered. After the ceremony, she slipped away from the noise, sliding into the back of a waiting black SUV. The driver didn't ask where he already knew. 20 minutes later, she stepped onto the same marble floor where it all began. The Valiant Luxe flagship was quieter now, but the changes were visible. Open floor plan, no velvet ropes, a welcome desk staffed by diverse faces. Lena was there, now in a tailored blazer with store director on her badge. Her eyes lit up when she saw the CEO. "You came back. I told you I finish what I start," the CEO said. They walked together through the store. Where the VIP section once stood, a display now read, "Every customer is platinum." Shoppers browsed freely, no one shadowing their steps. In the corner, the same mirror where the slap had been reflected now carried a small brass plaque. It read, "In this place we learn the cost of forgetting dignity. We will not forget again." Lena glanced at her. "Feels different, doesn't it?" "It is different," the CEO replied. She paused at the door, turning back to take in the space one last time. The air smelled of fresh leather and jasmine, not of exclusion, but of possibility. As she stepped outside, a reporter recognized her. "Ma'am, any final words for today's historic moment?" She smiled, the city light catching in her eyes. "Luxury isn't a club, it's an invitation, and the door is open." The cameras caught at the last line, the soft click of the SUV door closing, the reflection of the boutique in its tinted glass as it pulled away. By nightfall, the clip was everywhere. Not the slap, not the $5 billion, but the image of a woman who took the ugliest moment of her career and turned it into the gold standard for an entire industry.